What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We've got a voiceover video today. It was just a real loud day in the shop, and you'll see why I'm going this direction. But what I'm doing is showing you how to mount these small tires that arrive if you've ordered them online, and they arrive all folded up and out of shape like you see here. I want to show you a couple different things, kind of the method I used, as well as the homemade tool that I used and how. So I'll go ahead and get the video started and kind of watch along with you here. So here you can see kind of how the tire looks when it arrives, and you're going to have a heck of a time getting this to seat the way that it arrives, unless you're doing tubes. Unless you're doing tubes in your tires, that'll make a nice difference to push the beads out and get them seated, but in my case, I'm doing it without tubes. So what I've got here is my tire machine. You don't have to have this, but I figured out a new way to use my Twin Bush X98 tire machine to mount small tires. And I'll explain more about that here in a minute. So what I did there is, there's a lot happening and I'll kind of work through it here. I'm using my homemade bead blaster, and I can talk about that in a second. And it did work. As you notice there, I'll go back and you'll see it did work to seat the bead of the tire. But the force blew me back off of the air pedal and I lost my bead. So this was a confirmed successful method, and you'll see in a little bit here that it works again. But anyway, I'm using my homemade, this is a propane tank, air tank that I use, and I've just adapted it with a ball valve and a crushed piece of 1-inch pipe. And I'm using that as a bead blaster, and it works pretty well. So this is the homemade option. I don't know that you'll save a whole lot from just buying a bead blaster. At my local farm supply store, the bead blaster is like $115. So if I had to guess, I'm pretty close to $100 in making this tank. So just for comparison there. So anyway, with my setup, I've only got one air hose, so I've got to disconnect it from the machine, as you see there, and to refill the tank each time. So that's what we're doing here. I'll just kind of fast forward to the second time that we try this. And you can see there it did work again. Now I've realized that because I've got the tire clamped from the outside, the rim clamps are preventing the lower bead from seating, and that's been the problem all along. So now what I'm going to try and do is release the clamps and set the tire up. I think I actually closed the clamps and set it on top here, and you'll see shortly that that was not a wise idea. I'll show you what happens here. Oh, there you catch a glimpse of it. So at this point the tire is not secured in any way. And sure enough, you hit it with a blast of 140 pounds of air, and that happens. So unfortunately I didn't realize that the camera had fallen, and went ahead and secured the tire. We'll fast forward here, and wouldn't you know it, I ended up getting things seated off of the camera. So what I did is I used the exact same method. Let me go back here. I used the exact same method, but I opened my clamps fully and rested the tire in the middle. If you're doing this method without a tire machine, you can easily do it on the ground. Just make sure that you have a way to hold the tire still, or have something surrounding the tire so that it doesn't go flying up against the wall or something like that. And then you've got your air attached to the valve, the Schrader valve, and you're filling the tire when you hit it with your blaster, because you're going to need that air to fill the tire without losing the bead. So you're kind of doing two things at once. But I apologize again that I missed showing the tire actually seat, but you can see there that it did. And I'll just show you here on the snowblower once it was installed. There you go. So again, if you're using tubes, this shouldn't be an issue. You can just use the tube to push the beads out. If you're wanting to go tubeless, in my experience, you do need a bead blaster. So that's all I've got. If you have any questions, make sure to ask down below in the comments, and I'll try and get back to you. Otherwise, like and subscribe as always, and I'll see you on the next video.